This might be my most rewritten video in a while. Charlie is a hard character to talk about. In fact, I'm thinking about making a video that's kind of a follow-up to this, just talking about how cyclical the theorizing with Charlie can get, where everything just feeds into more theories and so on. I realized if I really wanted to make a good character analysis video, I'd need to lay out groundwork in other videos, and then once that groundwork was laid, I'd have to try and figure out, like, do I try to play this more neutral? Do I try to go really heavy into all my previous theories? I'm going with the latter for this video. Some of the theories that you could consider canon to this interpretation and this overall theory and video would be Mike Runaway, Cassidy Mastermind, Baby Ringleader, Molten MCI, Alter S, AI Limiter, Bite Victim Happiest Day, Puppet Stuff, or really any interpretation that has the puppet giving life to the kids. And before someone asks, because there's always one person, MCI means Missing Children's Incident. I know that's a lot of words, but these are just various videos I've talked about and made in the past. They all kind of build on each other and have this overall grand interpretation of the series that I've been working on for a while now. Okay, firstly, let me establish why I'm really favoring Charlie dying at Freddy's, which is probably going to be my first controversial of many statements in this video. But the way I've been laying out this kind of interconnected web of theories and timeline, it just feels right with what I've talked about so far. One of the first simple points for that is that we just never see the puppet at Fredbear's period, outside of course, the theory that Charlie dies at Fredbear's. We don't see its box in FNaF 4, which, like, even if the puppet was gotten rid of or, like, tucked away after Charlie's death for whatever reason, which is never implied or stated, but let's say that's your theory. Let's say that's your explanation for why you don't see the puppet. Why is its box not there? Or where's any implication of the puppet being around? But other than that, William, as Orange Guy under this interpretation, drives a long distance from wherever he was to get back to his home, when Fredbear's was not that far. It was just down the road of the house in FNaF 4. Not to mention, as I say in the Midnight Motors video, I think Junior's is Fredbear's closed and reopened. Someone bought out the place after it closed post-Bite and just made it into a shitty bar. And also its location, once again, is where Fredbear's would be if this is the FNaF 4 minigame house. So either this will open into Fredbear's or it has already been Fredbear's and closed. If you have any interpretation of the series where William is Orange Guy, this should line up logistically. If you think this is William, why is he so far away and have to go by Junior's? And where was Junior's in FNaF 4? Not to mention, if I'm building off the theory that Mike ran away because of William's abusive, controlling behavior, this could be spurred on by him losing his original diner and/or his son, especially since this theory builds on the Bite victim already being dead. And also, a little side tangent to build on Midnight Motorist with Mike running away. My Discord members Willie Whitewool and Trico Everfire proposed the theory that the lump in the woods is the FNaF 4 box. As I stated in prior videos, my running interpretation for what was in the box is a Fredbear mask, one that the Bite victim was supposed to wear on his birthday, which he'll end up wearing in Happiest Day. Well, some weird ghost version of it probably, because who knows how that works, but the real actual box is buried here in the woods. That would explain why it's not marked or anything like a grave would be. This also adds a lot more of a reasonable, grounded place for Mike to run off to. It's also worth noting, like I said in the Michael Motorist Remastered video, that this is location-wise loosely where the bunker will end up being. Imagine how dark and thematic it would be if William built the entrance to his bunker over where the box was buried, or near where the box was buried. I just think that's a really cool idea, and I thought I'd throw that in there. But that could just be another potential point to Mike being the runaway, and that matters because the more likely it is that Mike's the one running away, or the more fleshed out that concept is, the more likely it is that Charlie dies second and her death is largely responsive to the events of the Bite. That could be the reason Security Puppet exists. That would set up a series of dominoes of William slowly going insane, or getting drunk, or just having this bad night where he takes it out all on Charlie. And I also think the death of Fredbear's as a company in response to the Bite not only makes a little bit more sense, but also directly ties into the story of Henry and William, which in itself is intrinsically tied to Charlie's story, which I think might be in spite of Henry creating the classic animatronics. While we loosely assume Henry made the spring locks, he literally says he made the classic animatronics in the Insanity ending, which would make Charlie's death at Freddy's way more personal. Since we know that Freddy's is owned by different people than Fredbear's from FNaF 2, that can mean after Fredbear's closes, William doesn't own Freddy's. This would make Freddy's more of a separate company spin-off that William is forced to work for after Fredbear's closes. Either because Freddy's drags him there because he knows how to operate the suits, especially the Springlock suits, or just because he has nowhere else to go. It's a place he has experience and practice for, so it's a job he's ready for and can easily do. But it's just not the same as his Fredbear's job, where he was either running it or was directly the owner of. So while he's stuck helping teenagers get in these sweaty, shitty Springlock suits, Henry's building the big new brand that replaces his old characters that they worked on. Freddy's, in a way, is Henry moving on past William. And instead of being happy for his friend or trying to see if he can help work on these new characters or join in or move up through the company with his friendly connection with Henry, he gets jealous and bitter and angry. The idea that Henry, at least compared to William's family, has a happy, functional family with a sweet-natured, kind daughter. William's missing his youngest kid and has his oldest kid as a delinquent responsible for said younger kid's death, and if he has any empathy, is actually sad about said kid's death, combined with the fact that the bar built over his own failed restaurant is forcing him to have nights where he gets so drunk he gets kicked out. It just all balls up and compiles and builds to this one moment. Now note how Charlie's death works. It's one built around her being powerless, a victim of circumstance. Charlie is taken out of the restaurant by bullies and is just in the wrong place in the wrong time when meeting William, with her eventual vessel crawling its way through the rain to try and help her, but ultimately failing. Henry's character was made to protect her and prevent accidents from happening, but it fails. The puppet circuitry is screwed up, but Charlie's soul is now bound to it. Another point to the puppet being at Freddy's is the way that William seems to react as a character to it. It might take some time for him to put together that this moving puppet is acting on its own supernaturally and that this is Charlie. And William tries to repeat this results, try and get some scientific proof that this is what's happening. Why I say this is a point towards Charlie dying at Freddy's, why would he wait 2 years before doing anything with this information if he's killed her before the bite victim dies? Hell, why not kill someone at Fredbear's before the bite victim dies? However, if she dies a little bit after the bite, let's say either late 1983 or even in 1984, and we account for the time it takes for him to put it together, he would continue his experimentation killing kids for each remaining character at the pizzeria. Of course, leaving his own character, Spring Bonnie, intact completely. In other words, luring 5 kids to the safe room, and while he's at it, using the unique opportunity provided by a spring lock suit to see if a spring lock failure causes a different outcome than just killing them normally. Plus, at the very least, this would be an interesting thing to watch happen. Since no one but employees goes in the safe room and his face was obscured by the costume, he leaves them there to see what happens. If anyone stumbles upon the bodies, he can blame them as the last recorded face to enter the room. And if nothing happens, he can wipe the footage and dispose of the bodies more practically. However he would do that. Since there's no camera in the safe room, there's no proof they even died there. They would just vanish from most people's perspective. And it could be anyone who wears Spring Bonnie. But what does happen is far more interesting than anything he expected. Charlie encounters the dead kids back there and is panicked and disturbed. Now, maybe she would have been able to genuinely help these kids should she have focused her attention on saving just 1 or maybe 2. But this is a huge flaw in this version of Charlie. She wants to help to a fault. She doesn't want to just pick one. She wants to help everyone. This is a 3-year-old or maybe slightly older child, keep in mind, with 4 dead bodies in front of her and 1 mangled corpse in a yellow bear costume. She wants to help all of them. None of them should be dead. None of this should have happened. They all deserve to be helped, but physically or spiritually or whatever, however souls were, she can't save them all. So in her indecisiveness, she ends up making a naive, horrible decision. If you're wondering where this particular interpretation comes from, it's primarily with the Candid Cadet 5 Keys story, where the lady is indecisive and has the ability to help 1 kid, but in her efforts to help all of the kids at once, does something stupid and traps them all forever. If you're wondering why Charlie would stuff the kids, the dumbest reason out of universe would be that Scott already wrote in the detail that the kids were stuffed in FNaF 1, so if he wanted this narrative of William's first ever kill or intentional victim, bringing the kids to life, that would have to imply putting them in the suits. Though a slightly darker, more gruesome version, if Golden Freddy really did come to life on its own with William putting Cassidy in the suit and then spring locking them, then Charlie would learn that putting them in suits would bring them to life, and might even be ordered by Golden Freddy to do so. That might be what the text in the top left is. Though, as I've mentioned in several other videos, there's plenty of reasons Charlie could do this beyond this new theory I've dropped in here. This is just a very hasty, desperate, spur-of-the-moment decision in general. Once again, the 5 Keys story. Throw a desperate, weird, illogical Hail Mary in an effort to try and help everyone, ultimately dooming all of them. There's also the theories that Charlie doesn't stuff the kids, but somehow brings them life or gives them their memories. I don't really see that. Like, yeah, interacting with memories has been a thing, but it's not really ever been a requirement for possession. It isn't really that with Elizabeth, and also Springlock Cassidy's true, that doesn't have to be true. And also, neither the movies or novels really have this rule for like, oh, they can only possess things if they have their memories. In fact, minor spoilers for the movie, they actively don't really seem to remember how the MCI worked, and yet they're still very much possessing their suits. And also, this isn't even a thing on Frights or Tales, so it raises the question of why doesn't anyone else need that? But I'm sure there's some weird, very loose way to make it work, where you're just not supposed to think about it super specifically. No, the movie did not sway my opinion on this. I'm gonna have to make a video or two on the movie in general, but for now, actually just keep commenting. Give me that sweet engagement algorithm juice. Regardless of the specifics, with 5 angry kids who won't rest until William's dead, they're all doomed and trapped. Charlie will stand by these kids though. She made a mistake, and she's going to own it and help these kids, protect them, keep them safe. If it means killing people, she has to do it. They want that. They want to hurt those who wrong them. They're animalistic, wild, attacking any adult until they find the one. No one is trustworthy. No one is safe. Yet Charlie is there the whole way, thinking and wondering how she can help them. Always thinking. Always thinking. William tries to recreate his success at the new reopened Freddy's, but Charlie has learned from her mistakes this time around. Even when William intentionally lets the music box unwind, leaving bodies scattered around the building for her stuff, or have whatever happen, she doesn't do it. She doesn't give life to these kids. Now it's his mess to clean up, or Fazbear Entertainment's. William is now starting to be obsessed with these animatronics and characters. They're stupid children. He should be able to control and trick them easily. He was able to lure them to the back room easily as Spring Bondy. They fell for something as dumb as that. They do seem to listen to Charlie, though. They seem to follow her instructions, and they are somehow under her protection. What if there was someone new? A new Charlie, completely under his control, made in his image. His own personal ringleader. Enter Elizabeth. Note how Elizabeth's death is almost the exact reverse of Charlie's. Charlie is taken out of the main area, away from the animatronic in question that she'll possess, by other kids. When she's taken out, she encounters William and is killed by him, with the animatronic in question being made specifically to protect her, which actively goes towards her to try and save and help her. And also, this is an intentional kill by William, with Charlie being innocent in the entire thing. It was a series of small actions by multiple people, all of them going outside of what Henry had in mind for his creation, ultimately blowing up in his face. However, Elizabeth's death is caused by other kids leaving the area with the animatronic she's ultimately going to possess, with her going towards that animatronic. The animatronic that ends up working the exact way William planned, just on the wrong kid. It was by leaving William's side, it's implied via her dialogue she was probably around William or near him during that day before she ran off, that she is put in danger, with Baby being programmed to kill basically any kid at random and just ultimately picking the wrong one. It is Elizabeth's childlike sense of entitlement that causes her to willingly go towards Baby. This idea that this is a character just for her, that she wants to see and be around, that's so pretty and shiny. If Elizabeth was passive and reserved and listened to her dad and didn't disobey, she wouldn't have died that day. She plays an active role in her own death. And in a dark twist of fate, if Elizabeth was like Charlie the day she died, in other words, more passive and innocent, she wouldn't have died that day. In contrast, if Charlie had run off that day, let's say just into the pizzeria or wherever, instead of being in the line of sight or area of the security puppet, she might not have been in the wrong place at the wrong time to be killed by William. They are the wrong personalities in the wrong circumstances. Of course, it's neither of their faults, and they didn't want to be in the situations they were in, and neither of them deserve this, obviously, but there still definitely is, especially with Elizabeth more so than Charlie, a link between her death and her personality. They are two sides of the same coin. Now deep below ground, Baby would sit and wait. An advanced AI haunted by this child in its cybernetic mind, telling it what to do, whispering things to it. William will eventually learn more and more as he rips apart this machine with the scooper time and time again, experimenting with it, learning how possession works. In William's efforts to make the ultimate new machines, ones more advanced and capable than anything Henry built, he learned his method was flawed in a way, but maybe this flaw could work in his favor. When a soul haunts one of his creations, or any creation, they had limited free will built around what the animatronics were designed for, what their intelligent AI was for. When Elizabeth possesses Baby, she is not controlling the physical body of Baby as much as she's telling the AI Baby what to do. Since the classic animatronics are a lot more primitive, and Charlie has barely any circuitry in her suit at all after being fried, it is a lot easier for them to control their suits. But maybe there might be something to this. If his AIs have priority over the souls that haunt them, then it would be even easier for Baby to manipulate and control these kids. They would be bound to the limitations of the suits they possess, proving his original idea for a ringleader controlling them could still work. He tries this on a victim he had taken that day when Elizabeth died. In fact, I think this is what the springlock suit was used for and what he was busy with while Elizabeth was running off to go with baby. A kid who would be ultimately killed and stored in Funtime Freddy, who was subject to the AI's programming and was loosely able to be controlled with the whole audio tape being replayed and manipulated by Baby to a certain extent. He still was erratic and violent. This wasn't a flawless outcome or complete control like William was hoping for. I know it's going to be confusing because I talked about that chronologically distinct, but the order is William makes Baby's Pizza World, makes Funtime Freddy, makes the Springlock suit. That test day it's opened, William goes off to kill a kid, puts it in Funtime Freddy. Meanwhile, while he's distracted, Elizabeth runs off to Baby, then he starts experimenting with them, and that's when all this happened. I just want that timeline order to be clear. It ultimately becomes evident to him that killing more kids like with Funtime Freddy would not make them more controllable, but perhaps he could work with his prior victims. They were already loyal to Charlie, perhaps his plan with Baby would work there. But note, I stand by this is a strange plan overall, but I'm trying to find a rationale for it here. Ultimately, it doesn't help at all. Now that the bunker is too dangerous, William tries to send Mike down there to try and get Elizabeth out, meanwhile trying to get a backup plan going for his classic Spring Bonnie costume to fool the animatronics. Ultimately, that too does not work out, and now William's a corpse rabbit. Elizabeth, even after death, will continue to narratively be a foil to Charlie. Charlie presumably only kills because the MCI kids want revenge. The purpose of the security puppet and what Charlie had dedicated herself to was helping people. Elizabeth only kills adults when they're in her way or when it's convenient for a scheme, and is actually trying to kill kids and innocents and six because she believes it's what she was made for and what will make William proud. Charlie's goals are just to help people for the sake of helping them, let people move on when she's realized she's trapped them. Charlie does good because it's what she believes in and what she's experienced and believes she needs to do. Elizabeth does what she does because she believes it will make her dad proud. It's what he wants. And while narratively I have this theory that Cassidy's the one who makes the physical or extra physical or whatever the hell you would call it thing that Happiest Day is, Charlie is still the party's host. Cassidy may have planned and made it all possible, finding a lost soul from the past to be the centerpiece for other children to move on with and celebrate a party that they never got with, that being the bite victim, but Charlie had to be there. When you think about the bite and this tragic lost party that never happened and finally gets a chance to happen in the afterlife, what is one of the things missing? An adult, a chaperone to step in. In reality, it was just a bunch of kids left to their own devices to do something that obviously going to be stupid. If William was a good parent, or really anyone was just responsible and acted like an actual adult, or if there even was an adult there, the bite would not have happened. Charlie represents that being given to this second attempt. She is literally the guardian of these kids in the afterlife, and in a way, she's also the thematic guardian at a party. And what does the chaperone or party host do for a little kid at their birthday? They're often the person who brings cake to the table. That is Charlie's role in this moment, and she became that on her own. Her dad's plans just happened to line up with that vision and made that more accessible and possible. They both understand at this point that the spirits being in these suits is a curse, and a curse needs to be lifted. Charlie has grown and changed. An example of this is regardless of whether it's Charlie's actual soul in whatever the space is, or a recreation of the soul made by Cassidy to torment William, Charlie was scared of William. The puppet in UCN says that she was scared of William, but isn't anymore. Charlie does not care about killing William, she just wants to help the MCI kids, but she was scared of him at one point, but grew out of it. Charlie does grow into that kind of reasonable adult and guardian figure. She learns from her mistakes and gets better. In contrast, Elizabeth never really grows out of her dad's wickedness or her own childlike personality. She does change, but it's never for the better, really. She becomes obsessed with her dad's ideals and plans. After all, if she had listened to him, she wouldn't be trapped as she is now. He must have her best interests at heart, right? Surely everything would have worked out, or will work out right now if she keeps listening to him. But once free from the programming and restrictions of Baby after the events of Sister Location with Ennard, she is left as she is, and the flaws with who she is and will become as a person become more and more clear. The Fun Times were programmed to have Baby as the ringleader, and the whole goal of the experiment was to have suits that were possessed by souls under William's control. But now that the spirits are all free from their coding, and now that the amalgam has escaped into the sewers in the overall real world, there's no programming or shared goal and objective to cause them to all to listen to her. To them, now they have no reason for her to be around. She's just this sick, twisted, bossy brat trying to control them. They have no purpose for her. And this is part of what William fundamentally didn't understand. There was no inherent power Charlie had over the MCI kids. There was no supernatural rules binding them to her. That was built up of trust and respect and guardianship. He can't just insert his own and they'd be compelled to follow her. Elizabeth is not a leader. She's not the right kind of caring person that Charlie inherently was. So when they throw her to the side and Funtime Freddy takes over, Elizabeth is stuck discarded, unable to be what anyone wanted from her. Now she's unloved, completely abandoned from everyone, descending more and more mentally. Take note of Scrap Baby's design. At this point, Elizabeth doesn't need to be Baby. She could look like whatever she would choose to be, but she wanted to be Baby again. Baby led the Funtimes out of the bunker. That was her plan. She controlled them there. Baby injected what they all thought was William with Remnant to keep him alive so they could use him to escape without actually killing him. Baby was the perfect, pretty shiny robot made by William just for her. Baby was made to complete William's plan. She was wanted, she was needed. And if she isn't Baby, isn't she failing William? Elizabeth is the child who ran away to her own death. Elizabeth is the one who couldn't control the Funtimes after they ran to the sewer. Elizabeth was abandoned. She could make her dad proud if she could be Baby again. Look at what's emphasized in her design. The very claw that killed her is a huge prominent part of her design, and obviously the fact that she's trying to recreate Baby's design. But to me, what's almost more interesting is the tiara. This is such a great emphasis on the level of childlike delusion Elizabeth has reached at this point. It's like a little beauty pageant girl, cliche princess tiara outfit kind of personality. Combined with Henry's line about Elizabeth potentially not even remembering her own name, she's been wandering around obsessing over Baby and this perfect image she has of what she should be for William in her head, that she is losing and slipping away from herself more and more, with Baby, the perfect princess of killing, taking over. It's almost like Stockholm Syndrome. Baby killed her. In reality, she's this horrific machine created for an awful purpose by a terrifyingly cruel man. But she's been that for so long that Elizabeth is conditioned to want to be that. She wants to be Baby. Despite everything Charlie went through, she retained being that innocent little girl who wanted to help everyone and make people happy when she could. Though Elizabeth has completely lost herself, the fire is the end to both of them. For Elizabeth, it's almost like putting down a rabid dog that can't be helped. Killing her at this point is really the only way she'll ever rest. With how long she's been decaying, what else is there really for her? Can you really redeem her? Even if she was redeemed, what would she do but move on? For the girl who can't grow up, who can't improve, who can't change, what else is there? But for Charlie, this was welcome. In fact, this is what she's been waiting for. I think of this interpretation of Charlie as someone who needed help from other people. It is a reward for her caringness and effort. Cassidy may have been the one in this interpretation to make that possible, but it was Charlie's plan and goal, and she just needed help with it. Charlie is not some omniscient, dream-altering, teleporting yellow ghost bear. She is a girl doing her best. She has plenty of her own weird supernatural properties, but she is not a character built around power. Charlie's character in this version is a good person built on her own humility and willingness to learn from her mistakes. That is the inherent value of a young child in many ways. The impressionability, the ability to grow and learn from mistakes. A poorly raised child will just become spoiled and being trapped as an adult where it's harder to learn and grow. This is what Elizabeth represents. What if she didn't have people to help her? What if she was left on her own, unloved and abandoned? Charlie's story has her showing kindness and being rewarded for that, because she was nurturing and respectful and tried to help them. Happiest Day is the culmination of all of the connections and kindness she gave. Because she carried others in her arms, the favor is returned. Whereas Elizabeth is caught. Like I said, a spoiled, poorly raised child is stuck that way until adulthood. Elizabeth is like that. She may become better at killing or learning the routines of Sister Location's bunker so she can trick people or make her schemes. She might even learn how Remnant works if right fiction is true. But she's not getting better as a person. In fact, in many ways, she's just getting worse. That is what makes Charlie and Elizabeth foils. They represent the literal opposing narrative, the daughters of the two respective heads of the families, but how they handled their fates and what they did with the people around them fundamentally shows how they're different as people, and they are each other's perfect foils.